Hello YouTube, it's Random here, and today I have a brief video on limp wristing. I'd made a previous video the first time I took out my CZ97B, and it ended up jamming quite a bit. The reason behind that jamming was my 230 grain round nose reloads had a long cartridge overall length, or COAL, and with that particular bullet's profile and seating length, the bullet was getting jammed into the lance and the gun was not going into full battery. With the bullet getting jammed into the lance, it was very difficult to rack the slide to clear the jam. CZs are notorious for having short leads, and some CZs are quite ammo sensitive, although I've never experienced that in any of my 9mm CZs. Most people that view that video always comment on limp wristing as cause for it. Even given the explanation, people insist that it was limp wristing causing the jams. I've had a follow-up video showing that the jamming disappeared by seating the bullet deeper and having a shorter cartridge overall length. And just recently, there's another limp wristing comment that came up. I think most people that know enough about shooting but don't shoot a lot always overdiagnose jamming as being from limp wristing. There are a lot of things which can contribute to jamming. Some bullet profiles are notorious for being difficult to feed, such as semi-wad cutters. It depends on how much of the shoulder is showing above the brass. Typically, you'd want only about a fingernail's width showing above the brass, and that allows for good feeding. This CZ97B never had any issues feeding 200 grain semi-wad cutters. Now, you can also have a load that is not strong enough to cycle the gun, such as some target loads for autoloaders. And you can remedy that by having weaker springs put in such that it will still fully move the slide back and allow for it to eject and then reload a new round. You can also have a problem with your ejector. All sorts of things can cause jamming. Now, when you go to public range, you will see all sorts of people shooting, often with significant muzzle flip. Now, both these guns are safe. They're empty. Nothing in the chamber. Nothing in the chamber. When you go to public range, you will see all sorts of people shooting, often with significant muzzle flip, and yet jams are quite uncommon. I'm not sure how often limp wristing may contribute to jamming. Now, that's not to say that not gripping the gun strong enough is a good thing. Certainly, poor recoil management will lead to slower target reacquisition, and for some people, trying to grip the gun as hard as you can to make sure that you control that muzzle flip and have good recoil management, sometimes it leads to poor accuracy because people are over gripping the gun and you end up putting a lot of tension in your trigger finger as you're pulling it back slowly. Now, it would be ideal if everybody can shoot like Bob Vogel, but sadly that is not the case. So today I'm going to go to the range with my Shadow 2. I was going to range anyway with these two guns, and I decided I'd make a limp wristing video. This is my CZ Shadow 2. It's never had a jam with my 147 grain reloads, and this is the culprit gun where everybody's commenting that I'm limp wristing the gun, causing the jams. When I had an incident where there were a lot of jamming going on, I was using a 230 grain round nose powder coated bullet, 45 ACP, and it was seated at 1.270, which is my usual load that I use for my 1911 as well as my SIG-220. Both of those guns have gradual leads, whereas the CZ's lead, L-E-A-D-E, is quite short. And I found that the bullets were getting jammed into the lance, and that if I use shorter cartridge overall lengths, the jamming disappeared. Now, I initially adjusted for a length of 1.255, bullet length, but when I did that, I noticed that occasionally I'll still get a particular bullet that ended up getting sized around 1.257, and it may cause an issue, although it wasn't jamming the gun like what it was doing when it was at 1.270. So therefore, I set my seating stem to shoot for a length of 1.253 to 1.254. And so even if I do have the errant bullet that gets seated longer, it's still around 1.255 and doesn't cause any problems. And with the current ammo and reloading components shortage, I decided to waste only 10 bullets for the Shadow 2 and 8 bullets for the 97B, and we'll see if we can make the guns jam by overemphasizing a limp wrist. What I'll do is I'll hold the gun with a cocked wrist as well as an elbow that is quite bent, and I'll be shooting it off to the side such that there's also going to be a slight curve or slight bend in my wrist this way as well as this way, and the elbow will bend all the way here. We'll see if you can make the jamming occur if I overemphasize a limp wrist. So limp wrist.